Hey, I'm Inferno, and today I want to talk about some of the Redstone differences between Java Edition Minecraft and Bedrock Edition Minecraft. Redstone, the magical dust that some people seem to be just amazing at and some people find very, very confusing. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Redstone in terms of Bedrock versus Java Edition, how Redstone is different, how Redstone is the same, and just a general overview of the basic mechanics in each edition of Minecraft. So the very first and one of the biggest differences is how pistons act. So right here I have a regular piston and right here I have a sticky piston. If I go ahead and power this regular piston, it's going to push that block, and then when I retract it, it will pull back, but the block will stay where it is. This is normal in both editions. What gets a little bit different is how sticky pistons work. So if I power a sticky piston, it's going to push the block, but then when I unpower it, it's going to pull the block back. Now in Java Edition Minecraft, if you give a sticky piston a very quick 0-tick pulse, it will push the block out and then retract before it can pull it back. Basically spit it out as if it were a regular piston. Now I can try to get it to do that, and I can just spam click and do that as fast as I can, and no matter how fast I flick this lever, this piston is not going to push the block out. That's because I'm in Bedrock Edition of the game, and in Bedrock Edition, the sticky piston will not push the block out. It doesn't matter how fast you try to flick a lever, it doesn't matter what kind of pulse you give it, the sticky piston will always pull the block back and will never push it out, acting like a regular piston. This is one of the biggest differences between Java and Bedrock when it comes to Redstone, and it makes a lot of different Redstone machines not transfer from one variation to the other, because this mechanic is used a lot in Java Edition Minecraft. Just as a quick note before I go any further, I am playing in the Bedrock Edition of the game, so I'll be explaining the Java mechanics as best as I can, but everything I show you today is going to be in the Bedrock Edition of the game, so all of the Redstone principles I actually show you will be from Bedrock Edition. Another thing about Redstone is what it leads into and what it doesn't. So if we see right here, we have a redstone line going this way, and right here, it doesn't keep going straight. It curves into this switch because Minecraft considers this switch a redstone object. So even though, you know, our line is technically going this way, it's going to curve around and lead into it. This is just a block of iron, so as you can see, it goes straight past. It doesn't interact with the iron at all. One difference between Java and Bedrock Edition is that pistons in Bedrock Edition are considered redstone objects. So this is going to lead into our lever here, but instead of just going straight past like it does with the iron block, it's actually going to lead into the side of the piston. As far as I know, even in the latest edition of Java Minecraft, this is not a thing. It's just going to go straight past and it won't actually lead into the piston. So as you can see right here, the piston powers just fine. So to make the equivalent of this contraption in Java Edition, basically what you would need to do is you need to loop it around so that the lead is actually facing into the piston, and then you get an equivalent circuit. Alright, now this is a really confusing one that I'm going to get out of the way right now. So if you're a Java Edition player, you probably recognize this. I believe this is Quasi Connectivity / bud powering. I don't know a ton about this because I don't play Java, but it's very strange. So basically, if you build this or a circuit like this in Java Edition Minecraft, what's going to happen is this piston is being powered by this redstone block, but it doesn't realize it's being powered yet. So if we give it a block update, like removing the block in the middle, in Java Edition Minecraft, this piston will actually fire. It's sort of like short-range wireless redstone, but it relies on blocks actually getting updated. In Bedrock Edition, this is another principle that is completely absent. There's no quasi-connectivity or bud powering in Bedrock Edition Minecraft. So moving on from that very strange redstone principle that does not work in Bedrock Edition Minecraft, now we're going to move on to Monostable Circuits and TFlipFlops. So this is one Java Edition TFlipFlop I've seen making use of a monostable circuit. So real quick, this area is the monostable circuit, and this last part right here is the TFlipFlop. Basically what a monostable circuit does is it takes a consistent redstone pulse, like a lever, and it converts it into a very quick piston pulse. Alright? That's what that does. Another thing that it can do is it can take a button pulse, which is longer, and convert it into a much shorter pulse. Just so that doesn't get too complicated, the monostable circuit is just this part. So again, what we're doing is we're taking a lever and converting it into a quick pulse or a button, and converting it into a quicker pulse. The T flip-flop part of the circuit, the T is for toggle, so basically what you're doing is you're turning a circuit on and off. And if you remember, like we said earlier, if you have a sticky piston in Java Edition Minecraft and you give it that really quick pulse, it'll spit out the block and it won't pull it back. You can retract it later, but it will push this block forward. So basically what we're doing here is we're making use of this monostable circuit to give a short pulse, which pushes this redstone out, and this redstone block is going to give a power source. So basically how it would work in Java Edition is we hit that, and then it would spit out its block like that, and then we would hit it again, and then it would retract it, turning it off. What a T flip-flop essentially does is it makes a button act like a lever, so you push it once to turn a circuit on, and you push it again to turn a circuit off. This type of circuit right here, again, this principle does not work because the sticky piston mechanic is different. So monostable circuits on their own still work as far as I know in Bedrock Edition Minecraft. However, if you want to use them in your T flip-flops, that part is not going to work in Bedrock Edition Minecraft. So again, just to reiterate, this is how a button normally functions. It'll give, you know, sort of a long pulse right there. This is how a lever normally functions. You can turn it on, you can turn it off. What a T flip-flop does is it makes a button act like a lever. So this is an example of another T flip-flop that does work. I'm not going to give a full tutorial on how to build this, but this is a pretty basic, fairly common Bedrock T flip-flop. And you can see how it works right here. We just push the button, and it turns on. And then we push the button again, and it turns off. So it works just like that, making a button act like a lever. You don't necessarily need to have a button if you have any kind of circuit where you just have a quick pulse running through it. For example, we could hook this up to the end of one of our monostable circuits over there, and it should work just fine. Any circuit where you have a quick pulse, this T flip-flop right here will convert it to an on and off switch. Another huge difference between Java and Bedrock Edition Minecraft when it comes to redstone is these movable tile entities. In Java Edition Minecraft, there are mods that you can add that allow you to do this, but in Bedrock Edition, you don't need any mods to move things like chests. So, as you can see right here, I'm in Bedrock Edition of the game, and this is pushing and pulling the chest. It's manipulating it just fine. In Java Edition, I believe the chest breaks when you try to do this, that is a game mechanic that's completely absent. It doesn't break the chests. You're able to move them back and forth just fine, making use of a piston in Bedrock Edition. Now, this is the same for things like barrels as well. The only storage unit that doesn't work is an ender chest, because ender chests are made of obsidian, and so they're considered an immovable block. So if I were to put a block of obsidian or an ender chest there, this would not work. Just to demonstrate real quick, this is a block of obsidian, and you know, it's an immovable block, which means no matter how hard we try, this piston will not push it. And we can do the same thing with an ender chest. The piston will not push this ender chest no matter how hard we try because it's an immovable block. So one really big part of redstone is piston extenders. People really like using piston extenders in their builds. They're super helpful. I'd say the biggest use is probably piston doors, but there are other uses as well. So when it comes to double piston extenders, you may be familiar with the 2-4-0 mechanic. I believe this is still the current timing for double piston extenders in Java Edition, and it sort of works. It extends, and then we start to get a little bit of a problem there. We can try again. Yeah, it's still not working. Oh, and now, now it's breaking in even more ways. So basically, the 2-4-0 timing method doesn't work for double piston extenders in Bedrock Edition. You need a different timing method. If you're wondering, okay, what is the 2-4-0, if that's something you haven't heard before, basically, there's timing in redstone involving ticks. So, for example, this is just a line of redstone, so it has no ticks to it. Once we start putting a repeater in, we start adding ticks. So one tick is basically a delay. We have 1 tick, 2, 3, and 4, and that has to do with the timing because these pistons have to fire just right so that both of them can fire and grab all the blocks back to pull it. As you can see, they're not doing that right now. Okay, so if that wasn't too complicated and confusing for you, here's how you make a Bedrock Edition double piston extender using the same format as the Java Edition one, just slightly different timing. So if we flick this lever, it extends just fine, and we get the retraction. See, it all pulls back exactly how it was before. Beautiful, wonderful timing. So this is just slightly different. Basically, the principle we have here is 3-6-0. So right now we have this repeater is set to 3 ticks. This repeater is set to 4, plus this one is set to 2, making this timing on 6. and then this redstone line is still 0. That's a big thing that Java players often complain about when it comes to Bedrock timing. The timing is slightly different, so if you come with a Java background when it comes to Redstone, and you try to build something in Bedrock Edition, it is going to be a little weird because the timings are different. With circuits like this, it seems like Bedrock is just unreliable and inconsistent. Bedrock does have reliable rules to it, they're just slightly different than Java, so you have to sort of relearn when you're coming into Bedrock with your Redstone contraptions. So those are the Redstone differences when you're building contraptions in Java Edition versus Bedrock Edition. I hope this has been a helpful little guide for you in figuring out what those differences are. I know sometimes people will make tutorials in one version or the other version, and then you try to make it in your version of Minecraft and it doesn't work. It can be a little bit confusing, but once you understand what the differences are and how the rules vary from each other, it's a little bit easier to understand. So again, I hope this was helpful, I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time. Later, nerds!